Hello everyone. In the previous lecture we discussed about 9.12.4 factors affecting enzymatic activity. Now in today's lecture we will discuss the last topic of this chapter, biomolecules, that is 9.12.5. It is classification and nomenclature of enzymes. Let's get into our topic. It is 9.12.5. It goes like classification and nomenclature of enzymes. Classification and nomenclature of enzymes. Now when we talk about nomenclature of enzymes, we tell that like some enzymes retained their old traditional names itself. Like we will not get any clue that it is an enzyme. It doesn't have a prefix or suffix to give us a clue that it's an enzyme, because they have retained their old traditional nomenclature. Examples for such enzymes, we can go with pepsin, we don't have any clue, and trypsin. So since they're having their old nomenclature, this is one category. And the second one is some enzymes are named after their sources, from where they are extracted. So some enzymes are named from the sources where they are extracted. So if we have to see an example for this category, we can take papain is an enzyme extracted from papaya, and bromelain is an enzyme extracted from pineapple. So this is one nomenclature. Almost all the enzymes will have a suffix "ase" at the ending. That is another nomenclature. Enzymes have suffix "ase", right? They have a suffix "ase". Dehydrogenases, oxidoreductases, lyases, ligases. So that's the other one. And enzymes are named after the reaction they are categorizing. Oxidoreductases and the other enzymes which do oxidation reductions. Isomerases are the enzymes which do isomerization reactions. Transferases are the enzymes which transfer the groups, like that. So enzymes are named after their functions. Enzymes can be named after their functions. Like for example, transferases will transfer the groups. Isomerases will catalyze isomerization reactions. So this is another way. And the current nomenclature goes like each enzyme has two words. The first word usually denotes the substrate, and the second word which type of action it is doing. So the current nomenclature of enzymes shows two words. It shows two words. So the first word denotes the substrate. The first word denotes the substrate in most of the cases, and the second word, it denotes its action. The second word denotes its action. So these are a few points which we can discuss under nomenclature of enzymes. So what are the points we discussed under nomenclature of enzymes? Some enzymes have retained their old traditional names, so we don't have any hint that there are enzymes like pepsin and trypsin if you go. Then some enzymes are named from their sources where they are extracted, like papaya. From papaya we extract papain, and from pineapple we extract bromelain. This is one thing. And some enzymes have suffix "ase", not some enzymes, all the enzymes will have suffix "ase" at the end, leaving these exceptions. Enzymes are named after their functions, what they are doing, like isomerases, they catalyze isomerization reactions, transferases catalyze transfer of groups, like that. And the current nomenclature goes like every enzyme has two words. The first word denotes what substrate it is, and the second word denotes what action it is doing. For example, when we take an enzyme called glucoisomerase, when we take an enzyme called glucoisomerase, so an enzyme called glucoisomerase helps in isomerization of glucose to fructose. So it is called as glucoisomerase. So like this, first word is gluco, it's a substrate name. Second word is action, what it's doing, isomerase, it's converting glucose into a fructose, which is an isomer. This is about the topic nomenclature. Now when we get into the next topic, that is classification of enzymes. When we get in the next topic, classification of enzymes. Now there's an union called International Union of Biochemistry. So they have done the classification of enzymes. They divided the enzymes under 6 classes, and each class has 4 to 13 subclasses, and each subclass will have some 5 to 10 subclasses, right? So who has done the classification of enzymes? Enzyme classification was done by IUB, which stands for International Union of Biochemistry. They have done the classification of enzymes. They have classified the enzymes into 6 classes, and each class has 13 each class has 3 to 12 subclasses, and each subclass has 5 to 10 subclasses. So the International Union of Biochemistry says that there are 6 classes, and each class has, it is 4. So it is, we can tell it is 4 to 13 classes. So there are 4 to 13 subclasses, and each subclass has 5 to 10 subclasses, right? And not only classifying the enzymes, they have given an enzyme code also. They have given an enzyme code also. So they are denoting the enzyme code with 4 digits. Like, for example, if we take 1.1.1.1, so if you tell 1.1.1.1 means it's enzyme code for an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase. This is a enzyme code for which enzyme? It is alcohol dehydrogenase. So this is the enzyme code for alcohol dehydrogenase. Okay. So in that, the first digit, I'm talking about this one. The first digit denotes the class. To which class does it belong to? And this is the second digit then. The second digit denotes which subclass it belongs to. And the third digit denotes subclass. And the last digit, it denotes the specific action that enzyme is doing. The specific action enzyme is doing. Now this is what they have proposed. International Union of Biochemistry, they told enzymes can be divided into 6 classes, and each class is further divided into 4 to 13 subclasses, and again each subclass is divided into 5 to 10 subclasses. Not only this, they have given an enzyme code with 4 digits. The first digit denotes which class it belongs to, the second digit denotes which subclass it belongs to, the third digit denotes which subclass it belongs to, and the fourth digit is specific for that specific action of an enzyme. So for example, if we take alcohol dehydrogenase has given an enzyme code of 1.1.1.1. Now let's see what are the 6 classes what they have categorized the enzymes into. One by one we will see the classification of enzymes. The first, since the enzyme code is there. Whatever we make the order of the classes, we have to maintain it. We cannot shuffle them. Suppose, for example, if I tell the class 1 includes oxidoreductases and class 6 includes ligases, always oxidoreductase should be in the first class and ligases should be in the last class. We cannot shuffle top and bottom. Let's go with the 6 classes. The first class of enzymes are called as oxidoreductases. Oxidoreductases are the enzymes which help in oxidation redox reactions. One substrate gets oxidized by losing a hydrogen group, and another substrate takes that hydrogen and it gets reduced. So we can, because what they are doing is transfer of hydrogen oxidation reductions, they are also called as dehydrogenases. So another name for oxidoreductases is they are also called dehydrogenases. They are also called dehydrogenases. Now, what are oxidoreductases? These are the enzymes which help in oxidation and reduction among the substrates. So, are the enzymes which help in oxidation and reduction of substrates. In NCERT, they have given a simple representation of this class. So they were telling like S is oxidized. They are telling like S is reduced, they told, and S prime is oxidized. Let's go follow the same thing. S is reduced. S prime, this is one substrate, this is another substrate. It is reduced since it is having hydrogen. This is oxidized since it doesn't have oxygen. Now you know, when the enzyme comes and removes the hydrogen from here, since the hydrogen is removed, S gets oxidized. And where is that hydrogen going? The hydrogen is going to the another substrate, S prime. So S prime, after receiving the hydrogen, it gets reduced. So then this, after giving the hydrogen, S gets oxidized. They are interchanging, right? And after accepting the hydrogen, S prime gets reduced. So this is about the first class which comes under oxidoreductases. Now when we go to and we told for each class there are many subclasses, there are many subclasses. Let's go to the second class. Second class of enzymes are denoted as transferases. Now what are transferases? As we told, like every enzyme has a suffix ase at the last. Transferases are the enzymes which help in transfer of groups from one substrate to other substrate other than hydrogen, because hydrogen transfer is done by this category of enzymes called oxidoreductases or dehydrogenases. So for transferases we can write these are the enzymes which help in the transfer of groups among the substrates other than hydrogen. Let us write it down. Transferases are enzymes which help in transfer of groups among substrates other than hydrogen, because hydrogen transfer is done by oxidoreductases, right? Now, in order to understand, again in the NCERT textbook they have quoted a simple example, and then they are telling here that the S is having a group called G. S prime is not having any group. So transferase should be an enzyme to transfer the group. Let it be a phosphate group or a sulfate group, right? So it transfers that group from this substrate to this substrate. After donating, this becomes simple S, and after accepting the group, it will become S prime, the group got attached. So now this is about the second class called transferases. Now when we go to the third class, class 3. So first class, oxidoreductases or dehydrogenases. Class 2, they are called transferases. Class 3 are called as hydrolases. They are called as hydrolases. Now, what are hydrolases? So, these are the enzymes which break the substrate molecules by hydrolyzing water molecule also. Hydrolases are enzymes which break the compounds. They break the compounds by break the compounds accompanied by hydrolysis. We can write accompanied by hydrolysis. Accompanied by hydrolysis means it breaks the compounds, and it breaks when you break the compound, then in order to maintain the valency you need to give some groups. When we break water molecule, like we get a H plus molecule, H plus atom ion and OH minus. So one substrate takes the H plus atom and the substrate takes the OH atom. So we can tell that hydrolases will break the bonds. Which type of bonds are they breaking? Peptide bonds they can break, glycosidic bonds they can break, CC bonds they can break, CN bonds they can break, and PN bonds they can break. So hydrolases can break. They can break which type of bonds I told? So they can break peptide bond, or they can break anything, glycosidic bond, they can break CC bond, they can break CN bond, they can break PN bond, like that it goes on. So this is a third category which is called as hydrolases, right? And when we go to the fourth class of enzymes, the fourth class of enzymes are called as LYASES, lyases. So lyases are the enzymes which will also help in breaking of the compounds, but without involving hydrolysis, without the involvement of water molecule. When you break the bond and you are not giving H plus and OH, then you need to give a double bond. So then it breaks the molecules and it gives the double bond. So we can write lyases are the enzymes that catalyze removal of the groups by incorporating double bonds. Lyases are the enzymes which break or which remove the groups, by incorporating double bonds among them. NCERT again has given an example. So they have given like C and C. One is having a group called X, another is having a group called Y. Now, when you break this bond, here this bond and this bond, then C and C, in order to maintain the valency, you have to give double bond, and XY will come out. So, X and Y came out. X and Y, these bonds you broke and you removed X and Y separately, and since this valency is removed, you need to make a double bond. So such class of enzymes are called as lyases. What we have seen so far, first class oxidoreductases, so which catalyze oxidation reduction reactions. Class 2 transferases, which transfer the groups other than hydrogen group. Class 3 hydrolases, which break the bonds by hydrolysis. Now lyases also break the bonds, also remove the groups, but without hydrolysis. Okay, then two more classes are there, class 5 and class 6. Class 5 includes isomerases and class 6 includes ligases. If ligases are breaking enzymes, ligases will be joining enzymes. If ligases break the bonds, ligases will make the bonds. What is the bond we have to make between two sugars? By this time you should tell. Like the bond which is present between two adjacent sugars should be glycosidic bond. The bond which is seen between adjacent amino acids is peptide bond. Now the enzymes which make those bonds belong to class 6, then they are ligases. Let's go with class 5. I told class 5 includes isomerases. Isomerases includes the enzymes which help in interconversions. Let it be an optical isomerism or geometrical isomerism or positional isomerism. Isomerases are enzymes which help in interconversions, like optical isomers, or geometric isomers or positional isomers. For this, they did not give any example, but then we already discussed about glucokinase, which helps in conversion of glucose to fructose. It can be an example for this category. And the last class of enzyme includes class 6. I told they are called ligases. Liases will break, ligases will make the bonds. So they catalyze linking of two compounds together by making CC bond, CO bond, CN bond, CS bond, like that. So ligases are enzymes which make bonds among two compounds, which make bonds among two compounds. Like it can form CC bond, CO bond, CN bond, CS bond. All these are ligases only. DNA ligases, RNA ligases are the examples for ligases. So now what we have seen so far, we discussed about the nomenclature, how to name an enzyme, how to classify an enzyme also, what is meant by enzyme code also we discussed. Now the last topic we have is 9.12.6, so which comes as cofactors. Now that's the last topic. With that we will finish off the chapter biomolecules. That is 9.12.6, which includes cofactors. This is very important topic. This is very important topic. Okay, so when we have to discuss about cofactors, now we should understand what is meant by a simple enzyme and what is meant by a complex enzyme. Pepsin, trypsin or amylase, all these are simple enzymes which is made up of only one subunit. Pepsin, trypsin, amylases, all these are simple enzymes, so which is made up of only one polypeptide chain. Now what are complex enzymes? Complex enzymes are also called holoenzymes. A complete enzyme. What do you mean by a complete enzyme? What are the parts of the complete enzyme? A holoenzyme has two parts. A complete enzyme has two parts. Now one part is called apoenzyme part and the other part is called cofactor part, right? So the other factor is called as cofactor. Now what is apoenzyme? Apoenzyme is the proteinaceous portion of the enzyme. Cofactor is the non-protein portion of the enzyme. Apoenzyme is the protein part of enzyme, and the cofactor includes non-protein part of enzyme. It includes non-protein part of enzyme. Since it is the protein part of the enzyme, where is that pocket, where is that active site present? It should be with the apoenzyme only. So apoenzyme, which is the protein part of the enzyme, it includes active site to which the substrate comes and binds. It includes active site to which the substrate comes and binds. Now what is cofactor? That is our topic, cofactor. Now let us divide the cofactors into whether they are organic cofactors or are they inorganic cofactors. Now if they are inorganic cofactors, call them as metal ions. If they are inorganic, call them as metal ions. Now metal ions, now they act as activators for many enzymes. Metal ions act as activators for many enzymes. Now this metal ion, what the metal ion will do? Metal ion will make a coordination bond. It will make a coordination bond with substrate. It will make a coordination bond with a substrate and another coordination bond. It makes another coordination bond with the enzyme. Like if I am a metal, now metal makes one coordination bond. It's having two hands, like with one hand it holds the enzyme, with another hand it holds the substrate. So it makes one coordination bond with the enzyme, it makes another coordination bond with the substrate. So then we call it as a metal atom, inorganic. So we can list down some examples of inorganic metal ions which act as activators for so and so enzymes. If we have to see, we can write copper. Now copper is an activator for cytochrome oxidase enzyme, which comes in respiration chapter. Copper ion acts as an activator for an enzyme called cytochrome oxidase. It comes in respiration chapter. And then magnesium ion acts as an activator for two important enzymes of photosynthesis, Rubisco and PEPKase. So magnesium acts as an important cofactor for the two crucial enzymes of photosynthesis. One is called Rubisco, another one is called PEPKase. We will discuss in detail about these things, what is Rubisco full name and what is PEPKase full name, in that chapter, photosynthesis. So we are just listing down which metal acts as an activator for which enzyme. Copper, cytochrome oxidase. Magnesium, it's for Rubisco and PEP carboxylase. Then we can write iron acts as an activator for catalase and peroxidase. Iron acts as an activator for peroxidase and catalases. Iron acts as an activator for catalases and peroxidases. Potassium acts as an activator for pyruvate kinase. K plus acts as an activator for an enzyme called pyruvate kinase. And zinc acts as a cofactor for carbonic anhydrase and carboxypeptidase. So zinc acts as a cofactor for, we'll list down all together. So we'll write down zinc acts as an activator for two enzymes. One is carbonic anhydrase, which converts carbon dioxide plus water into carbonic acid. Other one is a digestive enzyme called carboxypeptidase. Carboxypeptidase. And another enzyme we can write, manganese is an activator for, we can write manganese as an activator for IAA oxidase, indole acetic acid oxidase. And the last enzyme is molybdenum, acts as an activator for nitrogenase. Molybdenum acts as an activator for nitrogenase. So we told the cofactors are non-protein parts of holoenzyme, and the cofactor might be organic or inorganic. If it is inorganic, we call it as a metal atom. Now this inorganic cofactors make coordination bonds with the enzyme's active sites. It also makes one or more coordination bonds with the substrate molecules, and we are listing down some cofactors, like molybdenum is a cofactor for an enzyme which is involved in nitrogen fixation. It's called nitrogenase. Manganese, which is involved in making plant hormone indole acetic acid oxidase. Zinc acts as a cofactor for carbonic anhydrase, which makes carbonic acid. Carboxypeptidase, which is a digestive enzyme. Copper, which is in respiration, complex 4, cytochrome oxidase. Magnesium acts as a cofactor for Rubisco and PEPKase, which are crucial enzymes of photosynthesis. Iron for enzymes like peroxidases and catalase. Potassium for pyruvate kinase. Now when it comes to organic part, we can again divide the organic cofactors into, if they are tightly bound, what are they called? If they are loosely bound, what are they called? If they are tightly bound, if they are tightly bound to the apoenzyme, then it is called as a prosthetic group. If it is tightly bound to the apoenzyme, then that is called prosthetic group. And if it is transiently bound to the apoenzyme, temporarily bound to the apoenzyme, then that is cofactor. If it is transiently bound to apoenzyme, then that is called as coenzyme. Now we will take down one example for prosthetic group. So we will tell heme acts as a prosthetic group for the enzyme called catalase and peroxidase, which catalyzes a poisonous compound, hydrogen peroxide, into water molecule and oxygen atom. So heme acts as a prosthetic group, means it tightly binds to the apoenzyme portion of which enzyme? Catalase and peroxidases. Now coming to the loose association, transiently bound one is which is organic, it is called coenzyme. Majority of the coenzymes are derived from B complex vitamins. So they are derived from B complex vitamins. They derived from B vitamins. Let us take down the list and see what are the B vitamins and what are their coenzymic forms. Let us list that also, the way we listed for inorganic metals. Now let us list down what is the B vitamin's name and what is its coenzyme form. You might be aware, first one is vitamin B1. It is called thiamine. The coenzymic form of thiamine is thiamine pyrophosphate. It is TPP, which stands for thiamine pyrophosphate. And vitamin B2 is called as riboflavin. And the coenzymic form of riboflavin is FMN and FAD. So we can write them as FMN and FAD. So FMN is flavin adenine mononucleotide. FAD is flavin adenine dinucleotide. So it is flavin adenine mononucleotide. Flavin adenine dinucleotide. Coming to the third one, vitamin B3 is called niacin or nicotinic acid. So the coenzymic form of vitamin B3 are called as NAD or NADP. NAD stands for niacinamide adenine dinucleotide. So we can write it as niacinamide adenine dinucleotide. If you write phosphate, then it becomes NADP. And then we have biotin as a coenzyme. The coenzymic form of biotin will be biocytin. We have vitamin B12, which is called as cobalamin. And the coenzymic form of cobalamin is cyanocobalamin. And there is a B complex vitamin called as folic acid. The coenzymic form of folic acid is called as tetrahydrofolate. So it is tetrahydrofolate. Okay. Then next one we can write it as pantothenic acid. Is a B complex vitamin. Its coenzymic form is coenzyme A. Now we have listed out the B complex vitamins from which the coenzymes are made. And the last point of NCERT says that if we have to find out what is the role of these cofactors, then if we remove the cofactor, then the enzyme will not be able to do its function. So which justifies or which testifies the role, the critical role, the crucial role of cofactor in enzyme catalysis. So in this session we discussed nomenclature, classification of enzymes with the cofactors, organic, inorganic also. Under organic, prosthetic group we discussed, and under organic we discussed what are they? Coenzymes and prosthetic groups, right? If you like my class, you can share and subscribe to my channel. Now with this lecture, we finish the chapter biomolecules. So hope to see you again with a new chapter. Thank you.